Yo, it's the kid, it's the kid, it's the kid, it's the kid, it's the kid. It's your boy HH Halfop, man. So, we have Lenka back in it. So, obviously, she made her debut. You all enjoyed what she brought to the table, had this and that and that and this. So, she's back in because we realized that we need to actually talk about flipping Ajax or Dortmund pertaining to Champions League favorites. We may touch upon Atletico Madrid and maybe even Chelsea. Okay, maybe even Chelsea. Okay, come on, like Chelsea.
Maybe, only maybe, only maybe.
Semi-finals max, semi-finals minimum. Okay, easy, chill. Okay, chill. All right, so let's start first off with Ajax, man. Ajax. Now, let me quick little story. One of my first ever football memories. I'm in Nigeria. This is 1995, young kid in Nigeria. One of my first ever memories was Ajax winning the Champions League in 1995, and that was a huge deal because of how young the team was. I believe this was their first ever Champions League crown, but again, they were coached by Louis van Gaal. And I remember that team had some legends. You know, you had Overmars, I believe Bergkamp was there, Kano Wankwo, Finidi George, Yari Lipmanen, the De Boer brothers, Van der Sar. And I think what that started was sort of like, you don't need to buy all these huge, you need to spend crazy money on players. You can actually coach them through your academy. And thus, the whole idea of the youth academy was born. And that pretty much was the fiber and the core of what made the Guardiola Barcelona era so strong, because that was the La Masia academy where all these guys were playing together since they were 10, 11, 12, and they end up forming one of the most dominant teams of all time. So, but Ajax were the first team to really do that. And last season, many people said that they should have really pretty much made the final. Amazing football, superb passing, attacking, offensive football, and they really kept to their philosophy. But again, let's even start off like this. Can you sometimes be too much of a slave to your philosophy, to a detriment to yourself with regards to results?
I do believe so, because if you disregard what's happening in the world and you just focus on yourself, it can't always be a good thing. You know, you have to see what other people are doing and you have to say, okay, if I react differently, is it going to change the outcome? And I was just so sorry about Ajax last season because, I mean, their football is something that I really enjoyed watching. And I
Yes.
know a lot of people that aren't generally Ajax fans, they don't really follow the league. They just kind of sit down and watch the game, and they do it for the sake of football, for the sake of the football quality. And so I think all of my friends were really sad by the fact that Ajax didn't make it all the way. And I have to say it is one of the bigger football regrets of last season that I have.
Yeah, no, I mean it was unfortunate because I mean I think based on footballing wise they deserve to get to the final because the way like look at what they did against Real Madrid, look at what they did against Juventus. So
Yes.
speaking of this season, again Ten Hag is still the coach, amazing coach and everything. You know, obviously they lost Frankie De Jong to Barcelona, they linked to what you remember college, they lost they linked to Juventus. But do you still feel that with their brand of football, they can maybe they can actually be a surprise package and make it to the semis, maybe even the final?
I would say the semis, yes. I'm not sure about the finals. I hope so. But I do believe that the semis seems as something realistic at this point because, you know, again, we are pretty early on in the season. But the semis do seem pretty realistic. And they have a really good squad. And I
Yeah.
do, again, love their system. So if they are consistent enough, which I don't see why they wouldn't be at this point. If the injuries are brought to a minimum, hopefully, I do see them in the semis. Yeah,
Okay, but do you feel that, let's say, they're in a situation where, and this is similar to what happened to them last season, okay, they are 2-1 up. All you need to do is hold on to this 2-1 lead and 3-1 lead. Should they still focus on the philosophy of keep attacking, or should Ten Hag actually have a plan B alternative and say, you know what, let's actually have a defensive plan. Let's actually do to defend ourselves. Should they always live and die by the philosophy, or do they need a plan B, a defensive plan B?
you always need a plan B. Like It doesn't matter if we're talking football or basketball or, I don't know, doing ballet, you need a plan
Yeah.
B. Like life needs a plan B. But I also believe that this sort of quote unquote plan B should become part of their general style. Because, if you realize that there are 10 more minutes left, just retreat.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Defend.
Yeah, basically defend. And this is coming from a person who does not like defensive football at all. But
So does that mean that you hate Mourinho?
I don't enjoy him.
Oh.
I just,
So you don't like Uncle Mo, the greatest manager of all time. You're hating on Uncle Mo, my Uncle Mo.
I don't hate him. We have the same birthday.
Ah.
Fun fact. I just don't enjoy his style of football, and I don't enjoy his behavior with the press because it's over dramatic, and I just, you know, I
No, come
remember
on,
the
it's
biggest.
character. No, come on. As much as you hate it, deep down you love him. Deep down
I
you
don't
love his
I don't
character.
hate him and I don't love him. I don't enjoy his philosophy of football.
Yeah.
And I remember the biggest kind of turbulence between Real Madrid and Barcelona when you had Pep Guardiola in Barcelona and you had Mourinho at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Those kind of level of tensions. I feel like Mourinho was creating at least 50% of the tensions. The rest was like picked up by the media or Barcelona or social media or whatever. But I feel like Mo was making 50% of those out of nothing. And I don't like the style of saying, oh, yes, everyone else is to blame for a defeat except, for myself. I'm never to blame. It's everyone else's fault. That is how a 10-year-old thinks, not someone who is a grown up and who is a coach and who has people looking up to him all around the world. He has done incredible things in football and he has won trophies that are the biggest in club football, and no one can take that away from him. No one should take away that from him. But his general style and his football philosophy has become outdated, and he chose not to change at all, which is how you don't survive in football. You have to adapt. It's football Darwinism.
Interesting. I strongly disagree, but
That's
interesting.
fine. That's
Okay,
fine.
so let's go to Dortmund now.
Okay.
So now Dortmund, very very attacking team, and again I've said this many times that one of my favorite teams ever to watch was when Jurgen Klopp was the manager of Dortmund. I
Oh,
just
that
thought
was
that,
beautiful. That was
yeah,
beautiful.
the way that they played the attacking football, because I think because I was like reading some stuff about what he said like basically they used to do a lot of running, a lot of hiking, because he wanted them to play with a lot of aggression, a lot of runnings, fitness. So your fitness has to be very, very high, and you're seeing this translated to what he's doing with Liverpool right now. And Lucien Favre, who obviously has taken over, they still have somewhat of that same philosophy. And I think Jadon Sancho is one of my favorite players to watch for Dortmund. So do you think perhaps, maybe, possibly, Dortmund can learn the mistakes they made when they lost to Tottenham last season and maybe really go semis, maybe? Or do you think quarters max?
I think quarters as a realistic point of view, and then maybe a step further as we continue to assess them the rest of the season. At this point, I think quarters. I hope that they can go further because again, Dortmund is one of the teams that I do enjoy watching. Whether or not I feel like supporting a team. If I see Dortmund on TV, I'm gonna be like, okay, let's sit down, let's watch this.
Oh no, no, yeah. I mean, so basically, I mean, let's just. I mean, even before we even sort of like get there, like obviously we've not dealt with Dortmund and Ajax, two very attacking teams, and but with regards to football, if you were a coach and a manager, let's say you're bringing in a philosophy, would your philosophy be attack, keep balance, defense and counter attack, or just adapt to the situation?
I would have to say attack with obviously a space to adapt towards anything that's happening in that moment. But if I was a coach and I had to choose a philosophy, it would obviously be offensive.
because see, my thing about because I think like the beauty about all these strategies is that their strengths and their weaknesses. Because my thing is this is that ideally, my ideal is to attack. But if I want
Yes.
to win a game, if I want to win a game, I choose to defend. Because my thing is that okay, let's say you attack me. All I'm thinking about is I'm gonna figure out a way of stopping you from scoring. Because when you attack me, your defense is out in the open. And all I'm thinking about is that I'm going to study how you attack because every attack has a pattern. So I'm going to watch the tape, watch what patterns that you do, and by me stopping you from scoring, all I need to do is just score once or twice. And by scoring once, you're going to attack even more, and therefore it's going to leave much more space for me to attack you again. So I still feel that attack looks good, and I would prefer to see a team attack, but I think a defense is a much safer way of winning a tournament.
It's a practical way and it's a more pragmatic way of perceiving football and of playing football for sure. Again, I'm someone who's a fan of things that look pretty. But I do consider that it's important to be a realist in certain cases. So yeah, you can't always have 100% of your philosophy, but you do need to save some of it. Otherwise, you're going to lose your identity, and then no one wants that.
True, true. No, no, I mean, because for me, I think, like, look, it's, and that is why, see, that is my slight criticism of Pep Guardiola because I do appreciate his philosophy. And his philosophy is like, no matter what, we're going to pass, attack. Pass, attack. But I still feel that the whole point of being a manager is you have to manage situations. You have to look at different situations and adapt. And this is the point I made at the beginning. You can't be a slave to your philosophy. Like, ideally, my ideal is that I want to play superb Brazil, Hoga Bonito, blah, 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 beautiful, sexy football, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, what matters more? Looking good or winning that trophy? I want to win I want to win the bloody trophy.
Yeah, obviously, but another mix. You can have both. You can look good and you can win the trophy,
True,
but
ideally.
you can't be blinded by some sort of ideal that has to be preserved at all times, at all costs. At 100%. Like you can cut down like 20% or 30% of your general philosophy for the sake of winning a game. You still get to look the way that you want, mostly, and then you get to win the game. I do think that Pep is not really aware of that, or he is ignoring that. And this is coming from someone who is a major fan of Tiki-Taka. I worship that age of Barcelona
I
football.
despised that era. I despised it so badly. I hated it so
Well,
much.
you can either love it or hate it. I mean, there is no middle ground. Like there are people who get really bored with a lot of passes,
Yep.
or there are people who just sit down and they watch and they just relax. It's like meditation. It's like watching a machine move at a perfect pace, and you expect the next pass, the next pass, and the next pass, and then a goal. And that's how it works in ideal circumstances. But I do believe that you need a plan B. You need to be able to modify your plan A at least a little bit, so that is different enough in case your plan A, your original plan A, does not work. You need that kind of slight modification to your original philosophy in case it doesn't work, so that you can surprise the opponent and so that you can score a goal, win the game, win the trophy. I think that Pep has adapted a little more in comparison to the last few seasons, but I do still believe that he wants to create a Barcelona outside of Barcelona, and you can't do that. There was that one team in that one place in that one point in time.
Right
You
place,
can't
right
repeat
time.
that ever again.
One thing I would say though about the Tiki-Taka thing, as much as I hated it because I felt that it took away from the randomness and excitement of football, and I think it slowed the game down too much. But one thing I would say about Tiki-Taka is that what I'd appreciate is the ability to create chances and the ability and the intricacy of perfecting the pass. You know, because I'm a guy that believes much more in dribbling than passing. For me, I say, look,
Hmm.
beat the man. One on one, beat the man. I find that much more exciting. But what I think Tiki-Taka showed is that the whole thing with the 4, 5, 600 passes is you're trying to subdue the opposition. It's a psychological breakdown.
It
But
is.
as you're passing those balls, you're looking for that key pass that the opposition doesn't see because they're so mesmerized by how many passes that you're doing.
Yes, it is. It is kind of breaking the opponent completely because if they realize that, for example, they are on their own stadium, they have the audience, you know, roaring for them, and they still can't make it over 30% of possession,
Oh no, no,
it breaks you
it
mentally.
messes you up mentally. Mentally, it messes you up.
Yeah, and then obviously your first guy, he's kind of slows down, and his first guy kind of doesn't know what he's doing anymore, and everything kind of starts slowing down and slipping, and your concept starts cracking, and then it all goes to hell. And Barcelona just scores, two goals very easily, very relaxed, and your 30% has now dropped to like 25, and they don't really care. They just kind of run and they pass and they run and they pass, and they can do it for another 2 days because they're physically fit and they don't have to run too fast, so they just kind of relax, and they feel like it's a training or a school day. They're at a gym class. They don't really care, and it's the kind of relaxed level of football, a top-notch level of football at the same time, that you just, I mean, you got to appreciate it. You don't have to love it, but you got to appreciate it at least.
I think basically you basically said the key phrase. As much as I hated it, I had to respect it and appreciate it. You have to. You have to just but say, yeah, I hate this, but I've got to appreciate the craftsmanship and the hard work to create what I'm seeing here. So, um, final thing now, Chelsea. Now,
Okay.
this is what I say to people out there, and people, this. I am a complicated Chelsea fan, so that is my thing. I'm a complex Chelsea fan. Basically, it's a long story. So I put this out there, and everybody has insulted me and called me a brick and a loser for this. I said that Chelsea are going to get to the semi-finals of the Champions League.
Ooh,
Why do
that
you say
is
ooh?
that is optimistic.
Why is
That
that
is
okay?
very
Okay, wait. Why is that
optimistic.
optimistic? Young team. Samir Abraham is looking good. All they need to do is just get past Ajax in those two head-to-head games. Why
Well,
not?
it's not all they have to do, because it's getting past Ajax. That's going to be incredibly difficult because it's Ajax, and the different playing styles. Obviously, the fact Chelsea does have a very young team, the fact that Ajax, even though they lost a few players due to transfers, obviously things happen. It's football, but they do have a more let's say conclusive number of players that have been together for a longer time and that know each other a little better. So that kind of level of experience can become crucial in a game like this. I don't see Chelsea going that far. It's just that in this point, at this point in time, I do believe that it's kind of too soon for them. We'll see. I mean, it's like the first half of October. We'll
Yeah.
see. But at this point in time, I do think it's early for them to kind of go that far in the Champions League. It's
So
not impossible, but we'll see.
what? Okay. Where do you think? So are you saying quarters max, second round
Uh,
max? Don't say group stage max.
I'm not gonna say group stage max, but I do believe quarters is like the max.
Ay ay ay.
Yeah.
Well, well, we basically we will wait and see. But basically, maybe after the because look, I'll admit it fully 100%. Like I'll be real. It depends on that Chelsea Ajax game. If Ajax beat that ass twice back to back, then it's all that she wrote. Bada boom, bada bing. What we are. I mean, Chelsea are completely done. So, but I think it's just one of those things that you just never know. You just never know. We just have to see how the cookie. Like who knew Ajax were gonna get to the same as last season? You just never know. Football is one of these crazy things. So, right, guys, that is it for us. Remember, guys, remember to like the vid. Remember to share the vid. And remember to sub to the channel. Remember, Lenka's Twitter details for how you can follow her on our socials is in the description box below. And if
Indeed.
Yep, and if there's any other stuff you want us to talk about, any football topics you want us to dissect or talk about, tell us in the comments below. We will be taking suggestions for any stuff you want us to debate about pertaining to football or sports or whatever. Okay, water polo, hockey, basketball, anything. Any
Especially
sporting.
especially water polo, because this girl is coming from a country of water polo champions. So yes, water polo is a major yes.
Okay, so look, so if anybody, just any sporting thing that we want to talk about, basketball, water polo, skydiving, whatever, boom, put it in the comment below and then we will think about it for our next thing. So guys, peace out, stay true, stay real. Peace.